Poverty today. The difficulty of defining poverty and who struggles with it today in the United States, by Jones Veith and Caleb Knight. The fiction of poverty versus the reality of poverty. How Americans think poverty is compared to who is really affected by poverty.
When you hear the word poverty, this is the type of image that comes to mind. Malnourished and poor children, but rarely do we think of it as happening in our own country.
In reality, these are the people who struggle with poverty. Throughout the United States, everyday people like you and me are stricken with poverty.
Before we go any further, it's important to understand what exactly is this animal called poverty.
Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines poverty as the state of one who lacks a usual or socially acceptable amount of money or material possessions. The question then arises, what is socially acceptable or usual? The United States Census Bureau does attempt to answer these questions and measure poverty in its official poverty measure, also known as the OPM. The OPM computes poverty status using income such as earnings or other compensations before taxes. Additionally, the OPM factors in poverty thresholds that are differentiated by farm or non-farm status, number of children, gender of family head, and the ages of the persons in the family unit. Off of these measurements, the Census Bureau creates a threshold to determine whether or not a person is in fact in poverty.
Originally, the OPM was derived from the U.S. Department of Agriculture food budgets designed for families under economic stress and data about what portion of their income families spent on food. So, the threshold for income is the cost of food multiplied by 3 at the prices that food cost in 1963. Essentially, the Census Bureau defines poverty as anything below its measurement. We, however, define poverty as the state of possessing insufficient resources to achieve a dignified life arising from various factors. As a result, the capabilities a person is afforded is directly related to their situation in life.
First of all, it's not all about income. According to Short, the current measure, the OPM, doesn't take into account healthcare costs, rising levels of living, policies that reflect key government benefits, transportation or other costs to gain a job, and all other aspects that take away from disposable income. Poverty needs to be viewed on a per-case basis, as all people are different.
According to Meyer and Wallace, women are at an increased risk of poverty. 41% of the poor are a part of female-headed families. This fact can be due to differing medical costs, opportunities afforded to women, or differences in compensation for work that women do. Women are also often burdened with the cost of childcare, and as a result, single mothers have predicted poverty rates of 32%.
While the OPM has remained relatively unchanged since the 1960s, the Supplemental Poverty Measure, also known as the SPM, has a threshold that more accurately accounts for poverty. The SPM's threshold is at the 33rd percentile of all food, clothing, shelter, and utility needs. Additionally, it factors in the cost of having 2 kids and the costs associated with it. Altogether, this amount is multiplied by 1.2 to account for all other factors that take away from disposable income. Overall, the SPM raises the threshold about $2,000. As a result, it places more people below the poverty threshold.
So, which method should we be measuring poverty with?
What the United States government uses is the official poverty measure, aka the OPM. What we think we should be using is the supplemental poverty measure, the SPM. So we have 2 methods to measuring poverty, the OPM and the SPM. Overall, the SPM is a much better measure of poverty for many reasons. It takes into account much more than just income, by including things like geographic location, childcare costs, or transportation costs, as well as non-cash benefits and in-kind benefits. As Nussbaum said, poverty is greater than just a measure of income.
While measuring poverty is certainly important, it is equally as important to define it. One way many authors attempt to define it is by using concepts of functionings and capabilities. According to Sen, the definition of functionings is this: functionings represent parts of the state of a person, in particular, the various things he or she manages to do or be in leading a life.
Meanwhile, Sen defines the capability of a person as that which reflects the alternative combinations of functionings the person can achieve, and from which he or she can choose one collection. There are, however, different types of capabilities. There are combined capabilities, which are economic, political, and social abilities or limitations that allow a person to make choices, as well as internal capabilities, which are capabilities that are learned or developed throughout life. So now we have to decide which is more important to look at when it comes to studying poverty.
It's clear that capabilities are more important. Here's an example of why they are more important to defining poverty. Take a single mother who has the choice of taking night classes to improve her internal capabilities, or leaving her toddler home alone. For parents in poverty, this is a common dilemma. The parent is faced with prioritizing this situation based on the limited capabilities he or she is afforded. In this case, the parent can choose the functioning of improving her internal capabilities to then gain better pay or a better job. However, as a result, she neglects her own child or forfeits other disposable income on paying for childcare. The choice the parent makes, however, is the capabilities the parents are afforded. So, the functioning is not what limits the parent, it is the capability. As a whole, the capabilities a person is afforded can accelerate or hamper down their position in life in many more ways than the functionings of a person can.
There remains a question of who are the people that can be defined as in poverty. It should be considered as the people who struggle with a low income but adequate capabilities, people who have inadequate capabilities but not a low income, along with the people who are in the middle, the people who struggle with both of these problems.
Overall, a group that is in poverty can be inhibited in many ways that are out of their control. Whether it's inadequate income or capabilities, either one can drive a person into poverty. Furthermore, both can be actors in any given situation and drive someone deeper into poverty. Because poverty is so much more than just measuring income, the supplemental poverty measure creates a better poverty threshold because it includes healthcare costs, rising levels of living, policies that reflect key government benefits, transportation, or other costs to getting a job that the official poverty measure does not.
We therefore conclude that poverty is the state of possessing insufficient resources to achieve a dignified life arising from the capabilities that person is afforded.